Hey everyone, Eric and I did a video, episode 180, that was all about our house rules, our home rules that we used in our games. Posted it on the internet, on Reddit, got a lot of feedback. A lot of people had their own house rules that they used, that they enjoyed. Great thread. So I thought I'd share some of those today. So here are some house rules that I found on World. One of the best games of the day. Hey everyone, it's Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. We'd love your support. We'd love likes. We'd love subscribes. Definitely subscriptions. We're going for a milestone, and then when we get that milestone, we can have a celebration, have a live stream, get special guests on. Always a lot of fun when I hit a milestone and we do it. I mean, sometimes we've had peg people on, sometimes we've done game shows. It's been a lot of fun. So hopefully you can help us out to get to that next milestone that we're reaching for. So anyway, I want to talk about some house rules that I don't use. I mean, I found them. They kind of resonated with me, though, as I was looking at this Reddit post thread and all the interesting stuff in there and a lot of good conversation. So I thought I'd share some of the ones that I found that kind of resonated with me. I thought, hey, that's kind of a cool idea. There was a whole bunch of other ones too that were good as well, had great ideas, but here's just a few that I'm going to share. So first came from Patrick Shadowdad. They take, for a Joker, they increase the pace by +2 as well. So not just the Benny, not just +2 on trait rolls and that sort of thing, also +2 on pace. My question, of course, is does the Game Master get that too? Because wouldn't that be really interesting if your bunch of extras get a Joker and now they all can move +2 and just swarm the party of adventurers? I don't know. It'd be kind of interesting. Great idea, though, to add just a little more oomph, additional oomph on a Joker. Lunatic Design does something in the same vein as what Eric and I talked about, where if you get a critical failure, we give you a Benny. They take a different approach. They give the players an option. So if they have a critical failure, then it's up to the player if they want it to be a simple failure, you know, that they cannot re-roll, but just a simple failure, or truly a critical failure. And if it's a critical failure, the player tells the GM obviously how it happened, how poor they did, and that's when they earn a Benny. And the GM can provide mechanical benefits or penalties based on the player's narration if they want to, so they talk about that. Brouhaha talks about a house rule that they use where it's when you're on your third wound, instead of having a -3 penalty, wound penalty, you get a +1 to rolls. So you're sort of in that dead cat bounce thing where you're very much more, you're up, you're ready, just, you know, you've got more strength because you're just about to die and you're kind of, you sort of that last gasp. I think this would be really cool to combine with Blaze of Glory, which is a setting rule that I talked about in another video from Riffs. You know, now you get a +1 as well and doing a whole bunch of stuff, but you know you're going to die ultimately. That's the point of Blaze of Glory, is you're going to die, but instead of dying, the Game Master lets you continue with some bennies, and then you ultimately die anyway in some dramatic fashion. So this is an interesting one. Give them a +1. Now, there was some comments that said, hey, this is really kind of breaking balance. It's making it, you know, even easier to succeed. And I don't know if I agree, disagree. I think it's just a different approach, and it's kind of cool. And so I thought I'd mention it. Then we had Plastic Hero. And they said it's not really so much a house rule, but it's an extension of Influence the Story Benny. So when one of the things you can do with a Benny is you can kind of take control a little bit of the narrative when you play a Benny and add something to the story within reason that the Game Master allows you. So in their Influence the Story, you take a Benny and the players can do what they said is a Blades in the Dark style flashback. So any Blades in the Dark, flashbacks is a fundamental mechanism that lets the players define how they were going to succeed by things they did in the past. I do something similar with my players for things like, for example, they went into a dungeon and they knew that there was going to be undead, but they never bothered to take some holy water or something. And then suddenly they said, well, wouldn't my character have thought to take holy water? Okay, sure. Do a Benny and we'll go back and we'll say, yeah, they decided to bring holy water with them into the dungeon because they're smart enough to know. So that might be something that's similar to that, kind of retconning based on, you know, the Benny being spent. So, and then sometimes they just say, yeah, you probably would have brought us holy water. You don't need to spend a penny. It all depends. So then we have Steel Draco, who has this rule around running, which says as an action, they can actually run additional. So you spend an action, you get an additional run die, so the plus 1d6. And each time you do, so you can do that to the max of 3 actions. So you get 6 plus 3d6 of movement. Now, I don't know if I would allow all 3, because there's really, if you're going to say, I'm just going to run the entire turn and use all 3 actions to run. Now I get a lot of distance with no penalty now because I was just going to run. So I don't know if I would allow that, but it's interesting to do that, to give them that opportunity to do even more run, close the distance. Obviously they'll get the run penalty, they'll get the multi-action penalty. So there's some reason they want to do it. Sounds kind of cool. Why not? Then Greg 3 has a house rule that I've seen others talk about, I think, something similar, which is they increase the cost of the selective power for 1 power point per target to be excluded. So normally it's 1 power point and it's selective and all your friends are safe. And sometimes that feels like there's really no danger anymore. You can just drop a template right on top of yourself, spend 1 power point, and everybody's going to be fine. They increase it to 1 power point per target. So if you're doing a whole party, it might be up to 4. Might be 4 power points if you're a party of 4 and you're dropping it right in the midst of all you. So that makes it a much more expensive proposition, and that makes it kind of cool. Now, does that nerf the spellcasters? I think it's for a particular setting. You know, there's going to be games where you want Magic to feel a little more dangerous, a little more, you know, don't mess with it. And this would be an example of where you might increase the cost to make it happen. Then we have a Computer Machine who had one, they had a number they listed, but one that really kind of stuck out to me was they deal themselves adventure cards as a game master equal to the number of PCs. So they get 1 per PC. And then they can use it or not use it in a session. It all depends on, you know, if it makes sense to use it. Now, why would that be interesting? Now, they talked about their players' thought process, which if you play a card, it feels more fair. If I'm reading, you know, their comment right, it feels more fair than if the GM just decided that was the case. So, you know, it gets rid of the GM fiat kind of side of it because you're playing a card. I had the card for calling the cavalry, and so I played it. Now more bad guys are coming. Ha ha ha. Versus, oh, more bad guys are coming. Ha ha ha. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. You know, if the player's mentality is about that, maybe there's a little more excitement to say, I just dropped the card. And, you know, because I know players love it when they can, you know, something's happening and they can drop their adventure card, and that just changes the whole flavor of the game and just in an instant, you know. So interesting. Gives the game master some of those options as well. Armand talked about how they like the Deadlands poker chip concept, which I've heard people do that as well. It's like, hey, we like the idea of having different bennies do different things, different styles of bennies. And so I'll just give their example that they provided. So they have white chips that act just like regular bennies. Then they have red chips, which give you an extra wild die to the roll and give a +1 for soak damage. But when you use it, the GM gets to draw a chip himself or themselves. Blue is the same as red, but it's +3 to soak damage, and the GM doesn't draw a chip, so it gives the players even better. Black is an auto succeed on a roll, but when it's used, it goes away forever. And what they mean by that is it's not in the bag anymore to draw from. It's outside of the bag until something major happens, like a big boss battle, then it gets dropped back in. And then last, they talk about green, which is just like black, but instead of going away forever, you draw from the Deck of Doom, and there's only 1 in the bag at any one time. So Deck of Doom. They don't say what the Deck of Doom is, but it doesn't sound good, right? So they probably have a nice you know, table set up that you draw a card, and based on that card, something bad can happen, you know, a la Wand of Wonder kind of thing, right? So very cool, very cool. Or deck of many things kind of thing. So Anyway, there was more. There was a lot of people who were commenting, and there was a lot of interesting takes on things, and I thought a lot of them were great. These were some of the ones that resonated with me, so I thought I'd share them. So again, more house rules. I'm more of a raw guy, except for a couple of house rules, but some of these were interesting, and I went, hey, that's kind of cool. I could see somebody using that and enjoying it. So anyway, I'm Carl with Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff, and we will catch you later. Thanks again, and please subscribe, because we're going for a milestone. Thank you much. Savage World, one of the best games today. Savage World, Benny.